on this Thursday. And so with that comes the need for a lot of information, I think, for applicants to have successful applications and really know about some of the challenges that they need to be working through. And I think we all realize that one of the challenges when it comes to deploying fiber networks is permitting. And so if I'm sure a lot of you were on our previous webinar with CDOT and going through the process of what it takes to work in CDOT's right of way. So we wanted to do something similar like that with the Forest Service or BLM or any kind of federal land that you may have to obtain permitting for as well. So I've been working with Jennifer White, who's from the United States Forest Service over the last couple of months now, and she's been so informative with helping the CBO understand their process of how to obtain permitting and work in their right of way. So we thought it'd be a really good idea to invite Jennifer and her team here today to talk with our BEAD applicants about everything that they need to know, everything you want to know about working with the Forest Service, obtaining permitting. What are some of the challenges that folks need to be aware of? So Jennifer, thank you so much for taking time out of your day today to meet with our stakeholders and explain more about what your team does and how applicants can how they can support you guys and your team and really understand the expectations of working with the Forest Service. So with that, Jennifer, I will turn it over to you and you can take us through your presentation.
Great. Thank you for inviting us to present today and share this information with everybody. We feel that it's super important to communicate early, frequent, and often. So this is a great opportunity before, that funding comes through and everybody's scrambling, because we want everybody to be a little bit proactive in their portals, in their submissions of their proposals, or, with another agency, their applications. So I can speak to the Forest Service of what our process is, but you can kind of say, okay, it's a federal agency. It's a little also similar to what BLM will expect also, but I'm only speaking to Forest Service today. So with that, I will jump in to, we have initiated a proposal submission process through the Forest Service. It is an online process. And on our external website, we have built out this portal process for submissions of all broadband fiber optic cable submissions. There's a link on our website, and then there's even this QR code that we created also that basically opens up just a Microsoft form, and you initially fill it out and with basic information. And then once you do that, you would get an email requesting additional information. This additional information is our standard Form 299 application. It's a standard OMB form that's approved by the US government. Also, along with that, we require what we call a plan of development. Then our website, there is a link to a template of what that plan of development is. Yes, some of the information in the plan of development is duplicative of what we ask in the standard Form 299. So, but really the plan of development is the who, what, why, how, when, in specific details, because we do need those specific details to be able to move forward with screening the proposal and actually move forward through the processing of the application if the proposal is accepted as an official application, which I'll get into that too. We've also created to standardize what we're getting from our proponents is mapping standards. And there's a link on our website also to a document of what our mapping standards are. what GIS data is that can be accessed, and there's a link to Forest Service managed GIS data that can be used, and also some examples of what we expect the maps to look like. So, couple things that are kind of important is all of the fiber optic proposals for the Forest Service that were proposals will be crossing Forest Service administered lands must be submitted through our portal. We have created a national broadband action team that reviews these portal submissions. And they work with the proponent to ensure that we have complete and robust proposals. And then once it is sufficient, the broadband action team, we call it our BAT team because, you know, we're superheroes now. And we refer that proposal to the appropriate forest. So we would, you know, transmit that to the appropriate forest where that proposal crosses. And then the forest is responsible for completing what we call as our initial and second level screening of a proposal 60 days from receipt of them getting it transmitted to them. If the proposal is accepted as an official application, the forest is responsible for processing the application. However, we do have additional team members on our team that can help and assist and support those forests through the interdisciplinary team. So we have brought on an additional archaeologist, an additional wildlife biologist, a botanist. We've even brought on a NEPA specialist, which is for the National Environmental Protection Act, to help through the environmental review process. So we have that team also to help and support forests with processing applications. Then once it is accepted as an official application, we are mandated through the Mobile Now Act that the forest has to make a decision to whether deny the application or approve the application within 270 days.
Hey, I've got a question, Jennifer, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
So if we can go back to the last slide.
absolutely.
I'm reading, oh, wow. So I got to go through this process that might take up to 270 days. That seems excessive. Can you talk more about why it takes 270 days to accept an application?
Yes, and I'm going to hit on that too when we kind of break down what's the requirements during that 270 in a couple later slides. But basically, it's to get through the environmental review process. So we have NEPA requirements that we have to make to ensure that, you know, we're protecting resources on the lands that we administer. We also have other mandates that we have to ensure that we are following those regulations and laws also, like the Endangered Species Act under Section 7. And will the proposal or application, proposed action, will that have an effect on wildlife or also plants and flora, fauna? So those are things that we have to also meet those requirements. In addition to, we have the National Historic Preservation Act, which is Section 106, where it requires us to look at cultural effects to cultural, if there's cultural, you know, artifacts or things out there on the ground. In addition to that, we are also required to do tribal consultation with our local tribes. So yeah, it takes a minute to be able to coordinate all of that coordination, get all of that documentation taken care of. And I will add that if there is an effect to, let's say, some sort of wildlife that is on the endangered species list, That's actually going to add some additional time because there's specific requirements where we have to do formal consultation with Fish and Wildlife for. So
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much for the additional clarification. That helps.
absolutely. Also, I wanted to kind of share with everybody that on our website, we also have another document where we provide tips on proposal submission. So we do know that some of the fiber optic proposals that will be coming in and that we have received in the past are going to utilize existing power pole structures, which is great. I mean, that's less surface disturbance. It's wonderful to see that. However, with that proposal that's submitted, we want to see some sort of letter of agreement, letter of consent from that facility owner prior to us, proceeding with screening that proposal. In addition, if you are planning to place fiber optic within a road right of way managed by CDOT, then a letter of consent or some sort of agreement is also required from that public road entity. I will also add to this little bit of knowledge of, even though it could be, a CDOT highway or interstate, if the proposal crosses Forest Service administered lands along that road that is CDOT's right of way, a permit is still required from the Forest Service. We have still administrative authority for lands that go over, that are within CDOT rights of ways that are Forest Service lands. CDOT has that authority to administer their right of way for highway purposes, but they don't have the authority to allow third-party uses within their right of way across Forest Service administered lands. So wanted to just kind of add that little tidbit in there for you.
So then if we can talk a little bit more about that, is that then the applicants, the person who's building the network, they need to then reach out to you, or does CDOT reach out on their behalf?
The applicant needs to reach out to us because they would be submitting their proposal to us saying, we're going to be along, Interstate 70. However, Interstate 70 crosses through this forest and we're going to be, parallel. We want to parallel the interstate to put in this fiber line. And it's like, that's great. Put it in your proposal, show us on the maps where it's going. Show us the surface land ownership, which through our mapping standards, it will provide that information to get those data later for the GIS and to be able to provide that in the GIS data and also on the maps.
So one more thing on that, and if you're going to get into this a little bit more in a moment, then we can wait. But if CDOT is charging a right-of-way fee and that path that the applicant needs is in their right-of-way, which also happens to be on Forest Service land, then would there be a fee that they need to pay CDOT and a fee that they need to pay to the Forest Service?
So I will get to our what our cost recovery fees and annual rent is, which is an excellent segue because that's my next slide. So I will just, Forest Service, our regulations require that we assess a fee for processing proposals, applications, and monitoring costs for those special use authorization permits if they're authorized. So these fees are charged separately from any of the use and occupancy fees. So the use and occupancy fee is basically an annual rental fee. And we are required under our regulations to charge for that, which Forest Service has adopted the Bureau of Land Management's linear rental schedule fee. So we go by the BLM's rental schedule fee, and it's based on based on the county and what zone it is. So it varies depending on some statistical information that is probably way above my head. I just get the schedule. So, but they use the NAS data for that. And it's like land building costs, and they figure out what the per acre fee is per county. So that is an annual fee that we do charge for just the acreage that crosses Forest Service lands. So, and CDOT, I know that they have initiated a annual rental schedule system also. I don't know how they're calculating their acreage, but the acreage that crosses the Forest Service land should not be included in their calculation. So,
Okay, that's what I was very curious about. That's good to know. Thank you.
but I'm not sure how they're doing it. So,
Well, we'll
like I
tell them
said,
Jennifer said so.
appreciate that. So, but yeah, that's kind of a little bit about our fees. It's, based on length and width, which creates acreage. And Forest Service is a little different, where we do charge that one linear use for the applicant. However, be aware that if some of that fiber is leased out from the applicant or authorized permit holder to a third party user, then you are charged one more additional use for leasing that out to a third party person. So I kind of wanted to just kind of give an overview of what kind of our timelines are. So we receive a portal submission in our online portal. We have that proposal reviewed by our BAT team. And if it's sufficient, then we transmit it through our regions down to the forests. If it's insufficient, then we contact the proponent and we ask for additional information and get that proposal really robust. Try to get it really, what's the word I'm looking for? Just have a lot of the work done prior to, initiating the formal process. So if you have, consultants, environmental consultants that can initiate like a desktop analysis and put that information in your initial plan of development, that just kind of helps preload that process. And there's a lot of desktop GIS information out there that I've seen in proposals come through in plans of development, because there is a section in the plan of development where it asks, what kind of resources are you going to be affecting? So you should already be forward thinking of, am I going to be affecting any of these resources? And if not, maybe a little explanation of why you think not. So, and that, kind of covers air quality, cultural, biology. There's a whole list, but that's all in the plan of development too. So there's no guessing. So once it's transmitted to the forest, then our customer service standard is within 60 calendar days. It is screened under our initial and second level screening. And then the forest notifies the proponent of suitability and that the proposal has been accepted officially as an application. This comes in a form of a letter, and then also it comes with a processing cost recovery bill. That bill then gets paid, then we can initiate the actual application processing once that cost fee is paid. That's when the 270-day timeline starts. So I have information up there of what our cost recovery fees are. They are also on our website. They do change annually. The category 1 through 4, those are what we consider minor cost recoveries. And then major category cost recoveries, those are for projects that we think it's going to take over 50 federal hours to process. So, and we would notify the applicant and actually have an official cost recovery agreement. So what's included in the 270 days? I kind of touched on this a little bit, but this is when we work with the applicant to possibly get third-party contractors to do official resource surveys, on-the-ground surveys that are required to meet our needs under the environmental review process, under our heritage consultation, tribal notification process, and also through the Endangered Species Act requirements. So that's that in a kind of a nutshell of the process. And then just wanted to share with anybody that if you have any questions, we have set up our Broadband Action Team email. And our email address is here. And I believe Lauren's going to share these slides with everybody that's here. And then there's a link to our website also, which is extremely useful. I really encourage everybody to go to our website because we put a ton of information on there. And if you have any questions, reach out to us at the Broadband team. We will set up separate meetings to have with you to actually talk about, project specifics, proposal specifics, and what we're looking for. So with that, I will open it up to questions.
Wow, no questions.
Thorough
Surprised.
presentation. Yep.
Oh, actually, Jennifer,
Yes.
this is Brian Shepard with Visionary Broadband. Thank you for taking the time to go through this. This is very helpful. One question, obviously, a lot of the projects will be fiber, but as the CBO can attest, fixed wireless is going to be a key player in our state. And so some of the applications that you see in Colorado will be for tower work, whether that's, putting in a new tower or leasing an existing tower or upgrading an existing tower type of thing. Will the process be pretty much the same as we're used to with this? Or, we'll have to do the NEPA review, based on the federal funds and so forth. But can you kind of talk through just briefly anything that we should expect from issues related to tower work on Forest Service lands?
Yeah, so if it's new, like new towers, and it's funded by BEAD, then use the portal for submission. So we're using all of our portal submissions for all of these BEAD funded projects,
Okay.
whether they're wired or wireless. And when you're on the form, excuse me, you'll actually have there's a drop down where is it fiber optic cable or is it wireless, a tower shelter? And you can select and then there's an other, because we do know that there's hubs that get put in also for long haul fiber and such. But yes, if it is BEAD funded for wired or wireless type proposals, submit it through the portal. And then we also have our wired side of the house that we just brought on our team, but we also have a whole wireless side of the house too at a national level that we coordinate with the regions and forests with.
So, okay, so you mentioned new towers. Is it, if it's an upgrade of an existing tower, is it the same? We still use the portal, or do we go through, if it's an existing tower, maybe one we have a lease with already that we want to upgrade, do we go through that standard process or do we go through this portal because it's BEAD funded?
Well, I would say it would depend. You know, I mean, there's some of those instances where maybe, maybe not. It depends on if it could be, you know, an existing permit. So I'm just gonna, you know, say it's company A that is a facility owner that has a tower, and they lease it out to other, they lease the shelter and the tower space out to other users. If it's just upgrading that type of equipment within the shelter or within the tower, then that is coordinate directly with the forest. Trying to think of other instances.
Well, I can give you an example on one of ours, for example, that we have a current lease with the Forest Service. You know, where we might need to upgrade the tower, you know, add another section to it that, you know, so do some fairly not elaborate, but so some complicated work on with, you know, how would we go about that? Let's say we needed to either replace the tower or, you know, upgrade the existing, you know, the guy wires, or, you know, put an extension on it, those types of activities.
So an amendment to an existing permit that you hold,
Mhm.
go directly and coordinate with the forest, and you do
Okay.
not need to go through the portal.
Okay, thank you. I guess one last question on the new tower. You mentioned going through the same portal. Can we expect the same time frame, the 270 days for tower applications?
Yes.
Okay.
So
Thank-
under the Mobile Now Act, it applies to wireless and wired. And we do our best to meet that 270-day timeline.
Okay, thank you very much for the information.
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer, a question came in the chat. It looks like it's maybe been answered though, but it was a question about land use fees, how they're assessed by acres, but how will that work for a linear installation? And Mike, I think is Mike on your team, Jennifer? Looks like there's been an answer. So
Yeah, Mike
Okay.
Johnson is on
Okay,
our
great.
team. So, but yeah, how you do acres is length times width, divided by 43560, and it gives you your acres.
And I can tell you that, you know, CDOT modeled their formula after the Forest Service, and one of the modifications they made to their initial fee structure to reduce the rates is they were also using the 10-foot width as a standard, because that's what Forest Service was using, and they reduced it down to a 3-foot width to bring that pricing down, that cost. So that is the same formula that CDOT uses.
Okay. Yeah, our policy requires a minimum 10 foot for our permits. So.
I don't see any other questions in the chat at this time. And I also don't see any hands raised. Any other questions? Like Jennifer said, I will share, I'll post the slide deck and the recording of this webinar to our website, and then we'll make sure we share that location with everybody. So you can watch it again, or you can share it with those who maybe missed it. And yeah, I don't know, Jennifer, do you guys have any closing words?
Jennifer, thank you so much. I appreciate, again, all the time and efforts that you're willing to take this afternoon with our stakeholders. And hopefully that really helps clear up a lot of the expectations that are needed when it comes to working with the Forest Service. Any closing comments from you?
Yeah, all I have to say is, you know, if anybody has any questions, please reach out, send an email to our broadband action team, and either myself or one of our other 3 national regional project managers will reach out and respond. So really appreciate you giving us this platform to get the word out about our process.
Thank you. And before we go, Jennifer, is there any way you can drop that website? I think it was in the previous slide in the chat, just for people to grab.
Yeah.
Now, should they want to go peruse the website now as opposed to waiting for me to send it out?
Right. Let's see, let me stop sharing real quick so I can go grab that link.
Thank you. It was requested in the chat, so it might be, yeah, good for everybody to have that before we hang up.
Yeah. So there you go. There's the link to directly to our fiber optic cable page, and has tons of information on there for portal submission of proposals.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Jennifer, thank you again. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.